Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. It is the 5th of July, 2019, still riding the 4th of July wave.
Slavery.
All weekend long.
The birth of freedom is in that flag. And the fact that nobody on that panel knows that, they all should be fired from stinking Fox News because they have stupid talking heads who don't know anything about history. And I just want to go and reach in and say, read a book. Okay? Go read source documents, you little talking heads. That woman was just grasping at straws because she knew absolutely nothing about history. Because she probably doesn't even read books that don't have pictures about the evils of slavery. John Quincy Adams, he said that he talked with his father, John Adams, and all of the men of that time, and they said, we are going to end slavery. But first we have to throw off England, which is making us have slavery here, okay, first off, and then we can get rid of Washington. We have George Washington, Battle of Potomac, on the ship. I always look at it when I'm doing the show. That man fought and died to lay the foundations of this country to end slavery so people like you would be free. Okay, he should have been dead, and he went and fought for people like you, okay? Jefferson tried to free slaves, all right? Betsy Ross went to... Here's the thing. Without that flag, you probably would still be a slave. And that's how ignorant you are, because if you don't see that as the foundation of freedoms, and I thank God...
Justin Amash. Supposedly, he was part of the Freedom Caucus, but little do you know that he's actually of Palestinian descent and actually hates Israel and hates Donald Trump. And I really think that why he hates Donald Trump is because they put the embassy in Jerusalem.
Is he like an infiltrator?
I think he is. I think he is. I think he's very anti-Jew, and I think he's very anti-Israel. And he left the GOP. He left the Republican Party.
Good riddance.
He says, great news for the Republican Party as one of the dumbest and most disloyal men in Congress is quitting the party. No collusion, no obstruction. Knew he couldn't get the nomination to run again in the great state of Michigan. Already being challenged for his seat. A total loser.
He's being challenged for his seat by a veteran who's very well spoken, and I like him a lot, and I hope he wins.
All right, so we're going to move on from our salute to America.
Which was so great, and you guys can watch reruns all day long of it and be proud to be an American in so doing. Or proud to be friends with Americans if you're watching us overseas.
All right, so, Michelle, tell them your newest purchase.
Okay, so I actually went and bought a Betsy Ross flag.
13 original colonies.
Yeah, so I actually love this flag. I think we all do. It just, when we look at it, it
guess
invokes...
who else loves it? Barack Obama.
Yeah, it was at his, like, what, 2008 inauguration or something?
It was at his inauguration.
When we look at it, all we see is the founding of America. Well, apparently, the founding of America is now racist. Our entire foundation, every building block, every person, every abolitionist in history is now a racist. Every black one, every white one, every red one, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're in our history, you are a racist, and nothing from our history can now be displayed.
All right, so if you guys didn't know this, Collar Stinking Kaepernick, you know, the little guy with the fro, I think he's half black, he's half white, he was raised by a white family. He's a commie. He wears socks with pig cops on them. He loves Che Guevara. He is a Castro fan.
Have you seen the memes going around that say R.I.P. Nike with the date of birth and date of death, and then they said it dies of colon cancer?
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen that. All right, so Colin Kaepernick. He tweeted out this thing, and he contacted Nike because Nike was going to put together some shoes. Where are them shoes? They're on the front of the thing. Nike shoes. We're going to talk about the Nike shoes.
I can pull them up. If you want.
Show them the Nike shoes. Well, because the Nike shoes were going to have this flag on the back, the Betsy Ross flag. Now, before I go any further, Betsy Ross was a Quaker, a devout Quaker, and Quakers were anti-war, but they more than anti-war, they were abolitionists, all of them. They were the ones who were running these underground railroads, and he obviously is horrible at history, and obviously there is not a historian amongst the Nike executives. Somebody would have raised their hand and said, no, Betsy Ross was an abolitionist. I think this is a good flag to have.
Okay, so
you literally, there's no difference between the Betsy Ross flag and the rest.
What is this flag?
What do you mean? As the stars were added.
The progression. Okay, yeah. So there's the different progressions of flags that we've had
in the States.
So what's wrong with that, though? How can that be?
Barack Obama thought it was great.
Racist.
This is a photograph from the 2013 inauguration of former President Barack Obama, which should put to rest the sudden claims from some of the Betsy Ross American flag as racist dog whistle. The debate arose when former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick objected to the presence of the Betsy Ross Revolutionary-era design of the American flag on a specialty shoe from Nike to be sold ahead of the 4th of July holiday. And I actually kind of like those shoes. They're kind of cool. Better than some of their other ones they sell for like $400, the Thug shoes. The shoe was recalled and its sale canceled by the shoe company, causing an online uproar among those defending the historical flag. Others on the left argued that the birth of freedom is in that flag. And the fact that nobody on that panel knows that, they all should be fired from stinking Fox News because they have stupid talking heads who don't know anything about history. And I just want to go and reach in and say, read a book. Okay? Go read source documents, you little talking heads. That woman was just grasping at straws because she knew absolutely nothing about history. Because she probably doesn't even read books that don't have pictures. By some white supremacist groups of the flag had turned it into a symbol of racist segregation and oppression.
No, because no one has ever used that flag as a racist
On Wednesday,
flag.
supporters of the Betsy Ross flag began posting photographs of Obama's inauguration, including the supposedly offensive design. So it literally just became offensive now, but Barack Obama is a black.
But here's the deal. Even if the most deplorable of a person uses something, let's take the rainbow for an example. I love the rainbow. It's a promise that God will never, flood or destroy the earth in the same manner ever again. It's a beautiful, beautiful symbol, okay? But if you're not a homosexual and you wear the rainbow, then all of a sudden I have an umbrella. It's a rainbow umbrella.
Are you suddenly not gay?
And now I'm like, when I use it, I kind of think to myself, I wonder if people think I'm gay. Oh, well. But I do have to think that. And it's disturbing to me that I have to think that. But I have to get over that. I'm still going to use the rainbow because I like it. So if there are vile people, even if there are vile people using this flag or the American flag or a blue sky or green grass amongst their whatever that they're peddling, doesn't mean that you all of a sudden can't use it. And what is this? I probably can't even flash it here. I'm going to get told I'm a white supremacist, but the OK sign now. You're told you can't use that or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm like, okay, so if I want to use the OK sign, then somebody's going to come back later and say, oh, Michelle, is that whatever it even means? I don't know what it is. But I'm like, are you serious?
Colin Kaepernick did not like the design of a patriotic sneaker, and the footwear company nixed it. The company now under fire. Jared Max is here with the whole story. Hey, Jared.
Good morning, Dagan. The Nike Air Max 1 USA was created to celebrate our country's independence, but the sneaker will not be sold to the public. The sneakers were shipped to retailers, but then they were told to return them. The heel of the shoe features the Betsy Ross flag, 13 white stars in a circle.
What are they going to do
for
to
the
the shoes,
13
burn
U.S.
them?
colonies designed during the American
What
Revolution.
a waste.
When former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick saw an
Give
image
them away.
of the sneaker online, he contacted Nike. Made the face of a Nike ad campaign last year, Kaepernick, according to the Wall Street Journal, told Nike officials that he and others find the Betsy Ross flag an offensive symbol connected to slavery. Kaepernick, who transitioned from football player to activist, last played in 2016, initially was thought to be a dangerous choice by many for the Nike campaign, but since its launch, Nike sales have jumped. Great demand in the U.S. and China. Sales are up 4% in last year's fourth quarter to $10.8 billion, and this year the stock is up more than 15%. A Nike spokeswoman says that Nike has chosen to not release the Air Max 1 Quick Strike 4th of July as it featured an old version of an American flag. Some sneakers made it to the black market and now are a hot item. And NFL Executive Vice President,
and we needed to get back to the love and the joy
So
of football,
pause it right there.
which is really what.
Let me tell you something. So those sneakers, some of them have sold for upwards of $2,000. Now, whether Leah agrees with me on this or not, I'm 100% right. Colin Kaepernick was hired by Nike for advertising to make sales. So if anybody thinks that this isn't a stunt by Nike, who had Colin Kaepernick come and say, hey, you shouldn't use this, and then all of a sudden, who's talking about Nike? You, me, and everybody and their mother and their brother and every media outlet. It's called free advertisement. It's the most genius thing that they could have ever done. It doesn't matter. You're like, what's going to happen to those shoes? They don't care what happens to those shoes. Okay, they'll leak them to the black market and they'll sell them for, you know, whatever amount of money.
Right.
They'll make their money. This was an advertisement stunt that they did. Colin Kaepernick represents their advertisement. If you think that his doing this with Nike was not in cahoots and pre-planned from day one, you're living under a rock.
That could be true.
So I want to point out this flag. It's traditionally called the Betsy Ross flag. Has 13 white stars on it. It was created during the American Revolution. Jack Brewer, what do you make of this?
This is America. These are the conversations we need to finally have. The reason why Colin Kaepernick stands against a flag like that is the same reason why I would not wear that flag on my feet. I wouldn't wear a Confederate flag. I live in Florida. When I drive through Central Florida, you still see the Confederate flags flying. That is the America that we live. Hold on. Let me finish. You have to understand that the American flag does not have 3 stars around it, right?
It's
then,
13.
If you read 13 stars, I'm sorry. If you listen to the Star Spangled Banner that was written at the time that this
We only had 13 colonies, son!
Right? It talked about protecting everybody except for the slaves that were running away, okay? So that represents a bad part of America for a lot of people. If I was Nike, I would put a modern day flag where all Americans have rights and everyone can
They're
stand
just
up, albeit
stars
July,
representing the
and take
different
it with
colonies
Wisconsin,
as they
lighting
became
out fireworks,
states.
celebrating the best
So
country on
horrible
earth.
with history
But
these people are.
This flag has no place in my house, on my feet, and I don't want to see it.
But Colin Kaepernick is essentially running Nike, is he not?
No,
they're putting more and more of their right.
During that time of
American Revolution.
Even worse, Dagan.
Leah's hoping for some sound-minded argument here.
1770s.
In the 1770s, a black person was not even didn't even equal a
let me
person
ask you this,
during that time in American history.
Again, the Wall Street Journal goes into this. The flag's use is not that widespread. There have been some accusations that this flag has been appropriated by extremist groups, white supremacists. But if all people don't feel that way, is this really that risky a move for Nike to put this shoe out? And by the way, it is out and it's selling. There was one pair that went for $2,000. Sneaker exchanges.
If you wore the shoe, right?
Okay.
It's not the same thing as the Confederate flag, okay?
These people weren't fighting for slavery, and this is unfortunately
a rewriting of history.
Unfortunately, I want to sit down with that guy and I'm going to point at him and say, you went to public school where they brainwashed you with this hatred to your country,
and the
so
founding
that you
of your
don't
country.
know the ideas that Jefferson. We have George Washington on Battle of Potomac on the ship. I always look at it when I'm doing the show. That man fought and died to lay the foundations of this country to end slavery so people like you would be free. Okay, he should have been dead, and he went and fought for people like you. Okay, Jefferson tried to free slaves. All right, Betsy Ross went to. Here's the thing. Without that flag, you probably would still be a slave. And that's how ignorant you are, because if you don't see that as the foundation of freedoms, and I know how to read. Because obviously this man does not. And the rest of this population who goes to public schools, they don't know how to read, and they don't know how to use Google, and they don't know where to go for the information. I'm going to tell you where to go. Go and read source documents. Go to Wall Builders. I have spent hours of my life reading their writings. And there's a book I got on the shelf here, the Thoughts of Thomas Jefferson. He talks about the evils of slavery. John Quincy Adams, he said that he talked with his father, John Adams, and all of the men of that time, and they said, we are going to end slavery. But first we have to throw off England, which is making us have slavery here. Okay? First off, slavery, and then we can get rid. The birth of freedom is in that flag. And the fact that nobody on that panel knows that, they all should be fired from stinking Fox News because they have stupid talking heads who don't know anything about history. And I just want to go and reach in and say, read a book. Okay? Go read source documents, you little talking heads. That woman was just grasping at straws because she knew absolutely nothing about history. Because she probably doesn't even read books that don't have pictures.
Time out. Breathe.
You know what? I need a break. We're gonna watch David Barton, who's a lot calmer than me.
Yeah.
Talk about something.
Let me ask you this. This is something we hear a lot about Young Turks and MSNBC, CNN. It's sort of accepted as a truism, the Southern strategy. So yeah, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And if you look back then, Republicans, obviously, they were the ones about freeing the slaves. And if you look at even the Civil Rights Act, but there was a Southern strategy where it swapped. What do you say to that?
Well, it certainly was not that way for the first more than a century.
Right.
I mean, if I take a piece like this is a hit card for the Klan. This shows, and a lynching's a big deal for the Klan. So they have given you now
it's kind of their raison d'être when you really think of it.
Yeah. Thank you. 63 names here that need to be taken care of. 63 names. These are all Republican members of the legislature. There are 50 blacks. There are 13 whites. Now, people say, wait a minute, they didn't lynch whites. Yeah, there were 4,800 lynchings. And the 4,800 lynchings that happened with those 4,800 lynchings, 1,300 were white, 3,500 were black. The lynchings were Republicans. Now, the deal was just about any...
White Republicans?
White Republicans. You couldn't lynch any white because some might be Democrats. But blacks, that's a different thing.
Right.
So you could go at it that way. And so what you find is when you look after, once the 13th and 14th Amendment were passed, you could elect blacks to office in the South. And in states like Louisiana, states like South Carolina, Mississippi, you had more blacks than you did whites. So what happens is, for example, the first 137 blacks elected in Louisiana were all Republicans.
Right.
The first 41 blacks in Texas, the first 190 blacks in South Carolina, the first 99 in Alabama, 112 in Mississippi, etc. So the switching of parties, no, blacks were strong Republicans at that point in time. And they say, well, you know, that started changing in the 60s, the Southern strategy. Strom Thurmond. All right, Strom Thurmond was a Democrat. No question. He ran against Harry Truman because Harry Truman did some really good civil rights stuff, helped desegregate the military. He would not kowtow to the Democrats in his party that were racist, so they ran a Democrat against him, Strom Thurmond, the Dixiecrat Party. So Strom Thurmond runs as a Southern Democrat against...
Subtitles are iffy.
You know, Harry Truman, I mean, he is from a southern state, a border state. He was raised in a racist atmosphere, but he did the right thing with helping civil rights. And so Strom Thurmond is a Democrat. Well, Strom Thurmond became a Republican. He sure did. And he became a Republican because he changed his philosophy, because he became the first Senate Republican from the South to hire blacks onto his staff as major positions. And so it's not Democrats that did that. It was a Republican who did that. He left the Democrat Party because of their positions. So when they point to Strom Thurmond, you've also got to look at the fact that he also changed his policy positions, and he was no longer...
He became less racist.
He became less racist, and actually he tried to break through the barrier. He had a lot of education, a lot of...
Well, you know, I think we're going to do a whole installment because you have so much here on Black history. So before we do that...
But before we do that, here's what I say. For those who say in the South, I say, okay, let's assume you're right. Let's assume that Democrats switched to the Republican Party. I'm going to take any southern state in the 70s, 80s, 90s. You're going to have 1,000 people elected to office every election. You're going to have your local people, your county people, your others. And it was called the Solid Democrat South for a reason, because Democrats not. So I want you to find me any 10 offices in the South where the Democrats became Republicans and got elected. You just show me 10 out of 1,000. Nobody's shown me more than 2 or 3. Well, you got Strom Thurmond and you got David Duke, and David Duke went back to the Democrat Party. They can show me 2 or 3.
Right.
Show me, if you're saying that the thing, you got to show me a majority, otherwise your premise doesn't hold up. Yeah. You can't even show me 10 out of 1,000. So this is what people repeat without thinking about it, and there's certainly not evidence enough to prove that it was a shift, what they call the Southern strategy.
So the Republican Party is still the party of Lincoln.
Yes, I don't think they know that because I don't think they know what Lincoln believed, and I don't think they knew what the original platform. This happens to be the original Republican platform. That's the very first one. There's only 9 planks in the platform. 7 of the 9 deal with civil rights, equality, making all people equal, equality in pay, etc. That's the original Republican platform, and I'll bet you Republicans have no clue.
And I bet you, just like, because the idea in the 1900s, and you guys can go back, maybe, I don't know, if you can search some of our videos where we talk about public education, and I just put a little bit of tidbit in here for you to understand, because I've done a whole show on it, that you had communists, you had people, bad people, you had, in addition to communists, you had the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. They wanted a nation of workers and not a nation of thinkers.
Right.
They didn't want the entrepreneurial spirit that was in America. They wanted people who could run their factories. So when Donald Trump says, hey, we created the assembly line, I want to say,
that was
just
in his
pretty
speech
much
yesterday.
shot everybody in the foot
Right.
with that one, because Rockefeller and Ford wanted people who weren't thinking, because if you were thinking, then you were free and you wouldn't be like a Chinese person just putting parts on. And I believe if you're going to have vehicles, if you're going to have anything built like that, then it should be small base business where you receive the reward for your business. And if Ford wants to build cars, then he gets on and he's on that assembly line and he's building those cars himself.
So when anyone tries to tell you from a capitalistic standpoint that capitalism is fantastic, the assembly line is great, and rah, 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 you need to understand something.
The individual
Just
in America
like
is more
the
important
European
than
Union
stuff.
was a regurgitated version of Nazism and communism, so is that capitalistic mindset of the assembly line a regurgitated system of slavery. Slavery didn't work the first time because then everybody recognized that we were treating these people as less than human. So what we have to do, and they literally sat down and they wrote these things down. They made guidelines and they said, let's make sure that these people are a slave is just a person that does physical work for you and you control them.
Right.
We have an American society and a worldwide society.
Isn't it great that now slaves have to house themselves?
Yeah.
And pay for their own medical care?
And they are taught to believe that they are free in their minds.
And they're taught that it's a gift, that these jobs are given to them.
Exactly. So
oh my gosh.
Have a regurgitated form of slavery.
And then we have a tax code.
And Ford, Carnegie, and Rockefeller are the ones that put this into place.
A tax code and rules and laws that are specifically designed for big corporations who can hire an accountant who does that full time. Yep. And a lot of people don't start their own business because of the taxes and because of the paperwork. Right. That's why most people don't start their own business.
Right. So it was never about the color of skin. It was never for the actual slave owners.
Right.
It wasn't about the color of skin. There were white slaves. There have been white slaves from the beginning of time.
Black people
started out as white slaves. Black people sold their own. It's not about race. That was an excuse, like Hitler having an excuse that Jews were less than human. Okay? Mm-hmm. It was just an excuse. They just wanted workers, and they got them, and most of us are part of that system.
Right. You're right.
We are living in a slave society. So when I hear Trump say something like, we invented the assembly line, I'm like, and slavery. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, this is regurgitated slavery all over again. And what better than to not limit it to black people, but to everybody. Right. Every race, every creed, every doctrine, every gender, every age.
Exactly.
We got them all.
So Colin Kaepernick shared a video in addition to this that talked about, like, a 1-minute video about how, you know, slavery and blah, 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 racism, blah, 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 blah. And Ted Cruz tweeted out, let me see, where are you, Teddy? Here's Ted. You quote a mighty and historic speech by great. I'm not going to play this.
The Frederick Douglass speech.
No, I'm not going to play Colin Kaepernick's thing.
Okay.
But he was quoting Frederick Douglass, but out of context. You quote a mighty and historic speech by the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass, but without context, many readers will misunderstand. 2 critical points. This speech was given in 1852 before the Civil War, when the abomination of slavery still existed. Thanks to Douglass and so many other heroes, we ended that grotesque evil and have made enormous strides to protecting the civil rights of everybody. Douglass was not anti-American. He was rightly and passionately anti-slavery. Indeed, he concluded the speech as follows. Allow me to say in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented on the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope, while drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence, the greatest principles it contains, and the genius of American institutions. My spirit is cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. So read his entire quote, and when he talks about the Constitution, see, a lot of abolitionists, a lot of people were angry, and they wanted to abolish the Constitution because they believed that it upheld slavery. So Frederick Douglass sat down and he read the Constitution, and he said, this doesn't support slavery, this is anti-slavery. See, our founding fathers were smart, and they were not just smart, they were led by the Holy Spirit, because our government, the Declaration of Independence was for the freedom of everyone. And the Constitution was for the freedom of everyone. Okay? And within it are so many clauses that give everybody freedom, regardless of race. And like Michelle said, self-correcting government is what.
So, Ripaz is Michelle and Leah. In case you missed it, go watch Ann Widdecombe in First EU Speech. She's a corker.
Solid is good with played on Sunday.
All right, so come back and be with us for our European and UK news.
1 o'clock.
1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. I'm excited about Sunday's show. We're going to talk about Tommy and a whole lot of other things. But I want you guys to have a safe rest of the weekend. We've got Friday night fireworks. We've got Saturday night fireworks. We don't want anybody to lose any of their digits.
I think
or
people
face,
are wanting to just
or so on and so forth.
They're just really excited. A lot of patriotic people.
Barbecue something, okay? Just be very, very, very careful, okay? It's the same thing with chainsaws. Our mower guy says doctors hate chainsaw things because there's nothing to stitch up. Well, it's the same thing with fireworks, okay? So it's better to like cut a finger off clean and then, but blowing it up, it's very difficult.
On that note, we have a P.O. Box.
107 Milford, Ohio, 45150. If you send us your letters like Lori did, we will read them on air. We want to hear from you guys.
Thanks for that.
Yes, thank you to whoever anonymously sent the Make Our Farmers Great Again hats. I love them so much. I was going to wear mine today, but I really wanted to do more patriotic.
I know.
Green, not so patriotic.
You know what I like about the green? I can wear it out in public and I'm not afraid.
Yeah, right.
It's not that I'm afraid, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Be cautious. I be cautious where I wear.
So Patriot Gallery will be streaming this. I have no idea when, but you can check out Resistance Chicks YouTube channel for that. Like I said, we still can't stream on Facebook, but God knows.
Word.
We love you. God loves you. God bless. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. Have a wonderful evening, guys.
Sweet home.
Let's go.